Hi everyone, my name is Caroline Graf. I'm a PhD candidate at the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. And today I will present to you a talk entitled Social Norms Explain the Effects of Incentives on Prosocial Behavior. Now, incentives are these kinds of extrinsic rewards that are used to motivate behavior, and they are widely used and also widely considered successful tools in motivating behavior. Also in the domain of pro-social behavior, for instance, donating to charity or donating blood, incentives are frequently used. For example, tax benefits are offered to those donating to charity, or cash rewards or time off work are offered to blood donors. However, incentives have been found to have inconsistent effects on pro-social behavior. So effects have been shown to vary across countries and also across incentive types, for example, financial versus non-financial incentives. And so the question arises, under which circumstances do incentives actually encourage pro-social behavior? And firstly, we take a theoretical approach to this, taking as a starting point an influential theory in economics by Benabou and Tirole, who postulated firstly a direct benefit to the pro-social behavior that's made up of three components. Firstly, intrinsic motivation, so altruism and warm glow, for example. Then there's extrinsic motivation when an incentive is offered, so the motivation of getting something in return for the pro-social act, and a negative effect of costs, for instance, in terms of time or in terms of money. In addition, there is a reputational component. This is a simplified version of the one in the original paper, but the main two subcomponents are a positive effect of expected intrinsic motivation and a negative effect of expected extrinsic motivation. So when there is an incentive offered, then people are more likely to see the person engaging in the behavior as extrinsically motivated opposed to intrinsically motivated. And this here is posited to have a cost to the reputation and therefore discourage the behavior. However, when we look in the broader literature on reputation, for example, in psychology or in evolutionary biology, we find that social norms shape an individual's reputation. So they're kinds of informal rules that govern what is considered a good or a bad behavior in a certain group. And what we're doing now is integrating this notion into the reputational component so that we don't have a fixed cost or benefit in being perceived in a certain way, but that it depends on the social norms. And we test this model empirically on a real-world pro-social behavior, namely blood donation, for which incentives offered vary across countries. And we take two data sources. Firstly, the Eurobarometer, which is a survey conducted among representative samples from 28 European countries. And the items include those pertaining to blood donation, motivation to donate, and the acceptability of incentives, both financial and time incentives. And we aggregate this to get a social norm variable. And we also conducted, on the other hand, an expert survey. So we interviewed blood donation experts from across Europe to find out which incentives are offered in their respective country. And we used logistic multi-level mixed effects models and pre-registered our hypotheses and analysis plan on the open science framework. Now, blood donation behavior, incentives, and social norms all varied widely across Europe. Here you can see maps for the social norm variables, on the left-hand side financial, on the right-hand side time incentives. And these vary quite a lot, but time incentives are overall viewed more positively than financial incentives. Here's the effect of social norms and incentives. So on the y-axis, you can see the predicted probability of blood donation. On the x-axis, the social norm for financial incentives. Blue are predictions for respondents in countries with incentives, red without incentives. And although the blue line is always under the red line, so incentives, financial incentives overall have a negative effect, their effect is less negative if social norms are more positive. And the same holds for time incentives. So here again, the same scatter plot, but the social norm for time incentives on the x-axis. And as social norms become more positive, those respondents in countries where time incentives are offered have a higher predicted probability of blood donation, such that it's actually higher than in those countries not offering time incentives or not to every donor, if the social norm is sufficiently high. So to sum up, as predicted by the extended theoretical model, social norms can indeed explain the inconsistent effects of incentives. And incentives can encourage pro-social behavior if the incentive is deemed acceptable by society. And this is joint work with Eva Maria Metz, Pamela Wiebking, and Bianca Sulinet. And I thank you for your attention.